We have heard time and again leaders, politicians, and religious heads talking majorly and a lot of times talking about keeping the family intact, which means that if the wife is being raped by the husband, it should not come out or she should not come out and talk about it, right? She should not come and talk about it because the assumption around this is which is being made is that if she'll come and talk about it, the family would break. Hi everyone, I welcome you all to Guidance IAS, and today we are going to cover the current affairs for the second week of May. And the first slide or the first topic we have this week is a very important topic, which is marital rape. Recently a judgment has came regarding the same topic, and that is precisely the reason we are reading this topic. Today I'm going to cover each and every dimension related to this topic, not just from the UPSC perspective, but I feel this is something which should be known to everybody, since it is a very less talked and a very sensitive topic. So have you ever thought that why consent is not seen as the beginning of all discussions, and why when a woman says no, it is not generally concerned as a final considered as a final word. So we know that we all live in a patriarchal society where the women are generally suppressed and oppressed to the whims and fancies of the patriarchal society. So but I feel her dignity and especially the bodily integrity should be respected. So this is one side of the spectrum which talks about that the marital rape should be banned, and the laws should be there accordingly. But since we are reading we're starting it with the UPSC perspective, we need to see all the ends of the spectrum. So the another end of the spectrum says that since the laws of our country are already, the sexual laws I'm talking about, are already tilted towards the are favoring more the women, and if this type of law passes through, there are high possibilities that women will start misusing them, right? So let us now understand that what exactly the judgment was, what exactly the section related IPC section related to the marital rape is all about. So first thing first, before getting into the judgment which recently has came regarding marital rape, I would like to tell you कि exactly ये जो पूरा petitions का सिलसिला था वो कब से शुरू हुआ. So it started way back in 2015, wherein the petition to criminalize marital rape was filed in Delhi High Court. Then after 2 years, what happened? Government, the central government I'm talking about, says that criminalizing the marital rape may destabilize the institution of marriage. And what happened after that? 5 साल तक कुछ भी नहीं हुआ. Then 2022 में Delhi High Court begins hearing. So the hearing started taking place, and after a few days, the center tells High Court that it is in talks with the stakeholders. So as such कुछ ज़्यादा हुआ नहीं. So basically 1 month passed, and finally after February 2021, when High Court refuses to grant more time to the center reserve verdict on petition, and finally recently on May 11, this judgment of High Court came wherein they gave a split verdict. I'm going to exactly talk about what do we mean by a split verdict, as the word indicates split, which means कि कोई दो decisions आए होंगे. So exactly you got it right. There were actually 2 judges who gave different opinions on this case of marital rape, wherein Justice Rajiv said that marital rape is unconstitutional, but on the other hand, Justice C. Hari Shankara, he said that Section 376B and 198B, which again are related to the marital rape, these 2 sections are constitutional, right? That is why we are calling it as a split judgment, क्योंकि दोनों ही judges ने अलग-अलग judgments दिए हैं. So you might be thinking कि what now? We haven't reached to the final decision yet, as there are 2 different judgments we have got. So what now? So of course there will be another bench which will be sitting जिसमें 3 या 7 judges होंगे, and accordingly we will try to reach to some solution. But as of now, let us try and understand the exact case. So as always, we will be dealing first with the context, and then gradually we will understand every provision and clauses of this particular law. The context, as we have already discussed, the Delhi High Court recently gave this judgment, the split judgment. That is why it was in news. So before reading, and before coming to the exceptions which are provided under Article 375, we need to understand what exactly Article 375 and what exactly is written in our Constitution. So Section 375, I'm sorry, I'm talking about the section or article. Section 375 of IPC, it talks, it says that sexual intercourse by a man with his own wife, the wife not being under 15 years of age, is not rape. And this is to be noted here, the wife which is not being under 15 years of age. This is something really, really important and the most controversial point, which जिस पे ये petitions file होते रहते हैं. So if she is not under 15 years of age, it will not be called as rape. This is what section 375 of IPC says, right? Coming back to our previous slide, wherein it talks about exception. And let me just tell you what this exception is all about. So exception provided to marital rape in IPC is that sexual intercourse or the sexual act by a man with his own wife, the wife who is not being under 18 years of age, is not rape. Again, with the line which I underline. So this is the exception they have provided. Next question is what the court ruled. Court basically, this was the judgment they gave, the split judgment, two judges with different point of views. And we have already discussed what exactly the split verdict was. Right? Now, before going further, we also need to understand कि ये जो भी exceptions हमारे पास आए हैं, इनका थोड़ा historical background क्या है, कहाँ से ये exactly हम इनको trace करते हैं. So the exception, how did the exception on the marital rape find its way into the Indian Penal Code? For this, you need to understand these two things. First is the British colonial rule में क्या provisions थे, and then you also need to understand the doctrine of curvature, which don't worry, I'm going to tell you exactly क्या हुआ था, exactly what do we mean, what do we understand by this doctrine. But before that, let us try and understand. The IPC was implemented in India during British rule. We all are aware of this in 1860. ठीक है, हम सबको ये year भी पता होगा, a very famous year. And under the first version of the rules, marital rape का जो exception था was applicable to women over 10 years of age. 10 years तक ही applicable था, which was raised to 15 in 1940, right? But again, we are standing in 2022. This must be amended, I feel, right? Now, what does doctrine of curvature says? Again, it also says something which I really cannot relate with. So it says that woman has no individual legal identity after marriage. It says woman loses all her identity after the marriage. It is the husband who she should relate herself with. But I feel that she always have the right to withdraw. She always have the right to withdraw. Right to withdraw, that she can say no to the things. Notably, this curvature found a mention during the hearing of a very famous judgment which happened in 2018 in our country, which we call as adultery, right? And not just that, this doctrine, although not recognized by the Constitution, it holds that a woman loses her identity and all the legal rights with marriage is also a violative of her fundamental rights, which are guaranteed in article number 21, right to life and personal liberty, right? So this was all about the doctrine, or you can say a little bit of historical background, which is exactly जो IPC में ये clauses है, ये आए कहाँ से, right? It was very important for you to understand this, right? Now let us see at some of the global, you can say at the global data or the stats, the graphs. What does the global data says? But before that, I want to tell you that ours is, there are so many countries which has already criminalized this, but out of those countries, there are still few countries, around 36 countries or maybe more than that, which have not criminalized it yet, and India is one of those countries. Let us try and look at some of the global stats which is presented here. So as it says that 1 in every 5 men admit to forcing their wives into sex. According to 2011 study by an International Center for Research of Women, this is what this research center has provided us with this report. Then next data says that on an average, at least 1 in 3 women is beaten, forced into sex, or otherwise abused by an intimate partner or her husband. Next, we have a very important thing, that how it impacts a woman. It impacts, of course, psychologically, morally, and in every way. So it impacts the victim. Actually, the victim of the sexual violence by partners are 16%. You can remember this figure as it is very important. 16%, they're more likely to have low birth weight baby. And not just this, they are more than twice as likely to have an abortion. And not just that, as I've told you, they also undergo a lot of psychological changes, which leads to the depression also. So twice as likely to experience depression and 1.5 times more likely to acquire HIV. So all these points you can remember, and you have to remember for quoting them in your mains examination if at all it comes. We have already talked about the Indian perspective. In this paragraph, it talks about the Indian perspective and IPC section 375, which we've already talked about. But there is one thing, or the conclusion or the solution you can always recommend while writing your answer, which is that we can learn from some of the countries, like for example United States of America, where marital rape becomes a crime in every state by 1993, and here we are standing in 2022, wherein I'm talking about the USA, wherein the punishment says that most of the states penalize marital rape like any other rape. So it is nowhere different than, the marital rape is nowhere different than a rape by a stranger. Then Britain also has certain laws regarding it, which came in 1991, and it says that rape within the marriage became a crime. The 2003 Sexual Offences Act clarifies that the law giving consent a legal definition in England and Wales, and it also gives the stringent punishment in such cases. We can also learn from a very small country, if we compare it with our country, which is Bhutan, which says that marital rape is considered as an offense and a petty, it is again an offense, and punishment could be 1 to 10 years का उसको punishment हो सकता है. So we definitely need to, all the stakeholders related to it, be it any leader, be it any politician, be it any activist or the government, everyone needs to come together to solve this sensitive issue. And not just we need to make laws or the rules. I feel there's one thing which is really, really important and the need of the hour is the education. And by education, I mean sexual education, right? We need to make our boys and girls, both the gender, educated enough in such sensitive matters so that the boys especially can understand those things and the girls could stand up for themselves if any such sort of things happens with her. So this is, you can definitely propose while you are concluding your answer. All right. So this was all about the first topic. The next topic we have is value of vote of member of parliament in presidential election. So in this particular topic, we are going to cover what is exactly the value of each vote and how exactly it is calculated when it comes to presidential election in our country. And not just that, we will also try and understand how presidential election takes place in our country. But for that, we first need to go through the present context, which is that due to the absence of legislative assembly in Jammu and Kashmir, the value of vote of members in the parliament is likely to go down from to 700 from 708 in the presidential poll. So don't worry, I'm going to tell you how exactly we do presidential polls in our country and what is the what is the significance and everything. But before that let me tell you that what is the value of vote of an MP. So basically, in the presidential election, the value of a vote of an MP is based on the number of elected members in the legislative assembly. Since we are talking about states and union territories, including Delhi, Puducherry, and now even Jammu Kashmir also, right? But again, a very important question which arises ki okay, we are talking about the value of each MPs and everything, but presidential election कैसे होते हैं, उसी में तो हम value और वो सब calculate करेंगे. For that, you need to Yeah. So you need to understand. There are 2-3 things which you need to understand. First is Article 52. Article 52 of our Indian Constitution says that there shall be a President of India. There shall be a President of India. Right? Again, there's another article which is related to presidential election in our country, which is article number 54. And mind you, these articles also you can remember, because you can anytime, if you remember, aap kabhi bhi apne mains examination mein you can quote them, it will fetch you good marks only. So article 54 says कि जब election होते हैं, election, you know, the electoral college should be comprised of what? Elected members of what? Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, which is both the houses of the parliament, and also the elected member of this. This is the catch here. You need to remember, they are not the nominated member, they are the elected members. UPSC might confuse you with the nominated members or the elected members, but you have to remember, दोनों ही जो cases, दोनों ही जो part बनते हैं of the electoral college are comprised of elected members only. So elected members of the state legislative assemblies also, right? So these two articles you have to remember when it comes to presidential election. Now, how exactly the presidential election takes place? So, so how exactly presidential election takes place? We know that we are the citizen of our country. We directly vote to MPs and MLAs, which we call direct representation. And these MPs and MLA further vote for the president. Right? Now, the question which our context also asks, कि exactly क्या value होती है एक MP और MLA की vote की. For this you have this chart which you need to understand. The value of the vote of an MLA is the total population of that particular state जहाँ का भी हम calculate कर रहे हैं, divided by total number of MLAs and divided by 1000. ठीक है? This formula again you have to remember. UPSC has already asked question on this. They can ask you again. Now, if we talk about the member of parliaments की कितनी value होती है उनके vote की, so it is basically total number of vote assigned to the MLAs divided by total number of MPs, right? So these formula you make sure that you remember them, right? And there's one more thing which you all must be knowing, again a very basic thing, that presidential election जो है हमारे country में, it takes place through single transferable vote system, which we call as STV system or single transferable vote system, which is mentioned under Article 55 clause 3 of our Indian Constitution, right? So this was all about presidential election and the value of each vote. Up next we have center revised MP-LAD norms. Center revised MP-LAD norms. MP-LADs actually काफ़ी न्यूज़ में है. कोविड के बाद से MP-LAD जो स्कीम है वो काफ़ी न्यूज़ में है, क्योंकि इसको सस्पेंड भी कर दिया गया था, यू नो, एंड इवन अदरवाइज इट रिमेन्स कॉन्ट्रोवर्शियल, क्योंकि इसमें कुछ बहुत सारे फाइनेंशियल प्रॉब्लम्स, फाइनेंशियल ग्लिचेस भी देखे गए हैं, तो ये काफ़ी न्यूज़ में रहता है. हेंस इट बिकम्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर एग्जामिनेशन. लेट अस ट्राई एंड अंडरस्टैंड द कॉन्टेक्स्ट फर्स्ट एंड देन विल कम टू द स्टैटिक पोर्शन ऑफ इट, जहाँ पर हम समझेंगे व्हाट एग्जैक्टली द रोल इन द ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑफ MP-LAD scheme and what are some of the issues and challenges it faces. So, recently Ministry of Finance has received MP-LAD rules where the interest that the fund accrues will be deposited in the consolidated fund of India. Okay. More than the context, as I always say, कि कुछ ऐसे न्यूज़ होते हैं, कुछ ऐसे करंट अफेयर्स होते हैं जहाँ पर हमें कॉन्टेक्स्ट से ज़्यादा स्टैटिक पोर्शन पे ध्यान ज़्यादा देना पड़ता है. दिस इज़ वन सच टॉपिक वेयर इन वी नीड टू फोकस मोर अपॉन दी static portion of what MP-LAD exactly is all about. So MP-LAD scheme, actually for that you need to see this. MP-LAD scheme basically, as the name indicates, so the name says this is Member of Parliament Local Area Development Scheme. That Member of Parliament would be assigned some work in their own constituency, so that suppose in any particular X constituency, there is a need of primary education or primary health services, okay, कि hospital बनवाना है, roads बनवाने हैं, drinking water facilities को improve करना है, तो किसी constituency में इस चीज़ की ज़रूरत है, okay. Now it will be the duty of MP to recommend all these things. तो MP के recommendation से ये सब काम वहाँ पर हो सकते हैं. You know, in turn, the government will sanction whatsoever the amount is needed for the development of that local area, but that MP will be responsible for, you know, getting the work done here, right? So I think the full form only defines the entire objective of this particular scheme, all right? But now you must ask, then okay, what about the Rajya Sabha members जहाँ पर constituency होती नहीं है? So actually what happens in their case, ये लोग कहीं भी, you know, whatever district they belong to, they can select any place they want to of their own choice, जहाँ पर इनको लगता है कि इस particular जगह में काम करने की ज़रूरत है और people do need certain facilities, they can choose that particular area and get the work done there. Now you can also have a question about nominated members. कि nominated members किसी particular constituency से नहीं आते, what about them? So nominated members have the right to choose any place of the choice, you know, not exactly of the choice, but definitely where the work is needed, from anywhere in the country. Anywhere in the country. So it is at their discretion that they can choose it. All right. Looking at some of the more provisions of MP LAD, so as I have told you that local needs को complete करने के लिए कोई भी particular constituency में काम करवाना through MPs is basically the major goal of MP LAD. And not just this, even a lot of government schemes, like for example Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, Sugam Bharat Abhiyan, rainwater harvesting programs, a lot of government schemes, a lot of programs are also being implemented using MP LAD fund, right? But the question here arises is कि who is basically the authority जो ये सब sanction करती है. So district authority या फिर district collector is the one who sanction the eligible works, select the implementing agency and responsible for the implementation, right? And these are the two the implementation procedure जो है वो हम दो branches में divide करते हैं. One, you know, which is completed an ongoing work list at DA office, and citizen can file RTI also to know about the status of the work done in their particular constituency. ठीक है, तो ये सब जो है डिस्ट्रिक्ट कलेक्टर का काम होता है. एंड इफ यू टॉक अबाउट द फंड्स, 5 crores एनुअली इनको मिलते हैं, इंस्टॉलमेंट्स में मिलते हैं, हाफ इंस्टॉलमेंट्स में मिलते हैं एनुअली, तो इसी में से इनको काम करना होता है, राइट? आई होप दिस इज डन टू, आई होप दिस मेक सेंस टू यू. सो गवर्नमेंट जो होती है सैंक्शन फंड्स टू द डिस्ट्रिक्ट अथॉरिटीज एंड दे इन टर्न सैंक्शन the funds to, you know, wherever it is needed. ठीक है, so this was all about MP LAD. जो भी डेवलपमेंट्स होंगी रिगार्डिंग MP LAD आप उसको कवर करते जाइए. यू कीप अपडेटिंग ऑल दी अपडेट्स अपने नोट्स में, ठीक है, क्योंकि ये इंपॉर्टेंट है. दे कैन आस्क यू एनीथिंग एक्चुअली. नेक्स्ट, PMJJBY या फिर यू कैन कॉल इट प्रधानमंत्री जीवन ज्योति बीमा योजना एंड प्रधानमंत्री सुरक्षा बीमा योजना एंड अटल पेंशन योजना. ठीक है, इनको 7 साल पूरे हो गए हैं, इसलिए न्यूज़ में था. बट हमारे लिए इम्पोर्टेंट ज़्यादा है दैट वी मस्ट नो एटलीस्ट मेजर पॉइंट्स, नॉट एवरीथिंग. एक्चुअली एक स्कीम के बहुत सारे पॉइंट हो सकते हैं, बट वी डोंट हैव टू रियली रिमेंबर ऑल द पॉइंट्स. वी कैन शॉर्ट लिस्ट और फिल्टर आउट सम ऑफ द इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स आउट ऑफ द होल लिस्ट जो हमें लगे कि इंपॉर्टेंट है और यूपीएससी में चांसेस हैं पूछे जाने के. ऐसे ही I have filtered out some of the important points which could be asked in your paper because since they have completed 7 years, so there is a possibility UPSC can ask you about this. So I thought why not to put this and directly differentiate between all three schemes so that it becomes easier for you also to understand this. So let us talk about the first scheme, which is Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana. It says the objective jo hai scheme ka is to create a local security system for the poor and the underprivileged. If you talk about the age limit of this particular scheme, is 80 to 50 years by providing a renewable life insurance of rupees 2 lakh with just a premium of 330. एक्चुअली ये स्टार्ट हुआ था जब, तो ये काफ़ी न्यूज़ में था कि सिर्फ 330 के प्रीमियम पे आपको 2 लाख का इंश्योरेंस मिल रहा है. दिस वाज about Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana. Then next we have Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana. Again, Bima here is insurance. Both the schemes are related to insurance. This one says the objective of this one is to provide a very affordable insurance scheme for the poor and underprivileged. But यहाँ पर the age group was, they have extended the age group to 70 years. So now it is 18 to 17 years, or with a bank account at premium of 12 rupees. Here the premium was 330. They've reduced it to even further to 12 rupees. Again, this was also in news very much. और इसमें भी जो risk coverage होगा, that will be 2 lakh for accidental deaths and full disability, but 1 lakh होगा if there is a partial disability. So if a person dies, he'll get 2 lakh, or if अगर full disability हो जाती है उसको किसी कारणों से, again 2 lakh, but if there is a partial disability, 1 lakh, right? So this both of them talks about giving insurance to the poor and affordable families, right? Coming to the next one, the next scheme, which is Atal Pension Yojana. Again, since the name indicates, it is a pension scheme. What is the age limit? 18 to 40 years. तो उनमें ज़्यादा लिमिट थी, बट दिस इज 40 years. 18 to 40 years एक्चुअली काफ़ी पहले भी आया था. सो वी केप्ट इट 40. ठीक है, वी केप्ट अ एज टू 40 and then we tried to extend the years or the age. इसमें जो फिक्स्ड पेंशन है, that would be 1,000 to 5,000 per month. At the age of 60 years you'll get, right? हमारा जो contribution होगा depends on the age and the amount of the pension you want. जो government का contribution होगा, that would be 50% of your contribution. Whatever you are contributing, government will be contributing 50% of that, right? और 1,000 rupees government will be contributing आपके fund, आपकी जो भी account है उसमें 1,000 rupees, या फिर 50% of what you have contributed government will be contributing, right? Whichever is less from both of the two, either 50% or 1,000. जो भी कम होगा, जो भी कम amount है, government वो contribute करेगी, right? इसमें bank account होना mandatory है. Apart from that, जो payment प्रोसेस है इसका ऑटो डेबिट फैसिलिटी है, और अगर आपने पेमेंट में डिले करा तो आपको पेनल्टी भी हो सकती है, विच इज ₹1 to 10 डिपेंडिंग ऑन योर मंथली कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन, कि आप कितना कॉन्ट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं. अकॉर्डिंगली यू कैन ऑल्सो बी पेनलाइज अंडर दिस पर्टिकुलर scheme, right? So these I feel are the major provisions, or the major point of Atal Pension Yojana, you can remember. Okay? I hope the differences between all the three schemes are clear to you. Now, moving ahead with our next topic, which is Karnataka's anti-conversion bill. Karnataka's anti-conversion bill. So anti-conversion bill भी काफ़ी ज़्यादा news में होता है, and this is a very debatable topic also. I think you know the temperature of our country these days, so any religious controversy becomes important for examination too. So what exactly is conversion bill? What is the context? What are the provisions? We're going to deal everything about it, and what are the challenges which can come ahead of this anti-conversion bill. So to understand the context, let me just read out this for you. Karnataka state government has decided to take the ordinance route to get clearance for the Karnataka Protection of Right to Freedom of Religion Bill 2021. Before reading the highlights and before understanding the highlights, I want to tell you about right to freedom of religion, certain provisions and those articles. Let's try and understand these articles first. So these are right to freedom of religion. Article number 25, the very first article, it talks about freedom of conscience and free profession, practice and propagation of one's religion. That you have all the freedom कि आप कोई भी religion practice कर सकते हो, उसको propagate कर सकते हो, right? You can profess, and the definition of all these, all these articles and all these words are mentioned in your Lakshmikant. So you can go and read out from there. The next article 26 says that freedom freedom to manage religious affairs. 27 talks about taxation, ki freedom from taxation for promotion of any religion. 28 says freedom from attending any religious instruction. I'm not going into the details of these articles, as these are these are very easy to understand, but still if you want to know more about them, go to your static portion notes and just revise it from there once, because ये कर्नाटका के बिल की वजह से ये सारे आर्टिकल्स जो हैं वो न्यूज़ में हैं, so it makes a high possibility for these topics to be asked in your examination, right? Now that we have talked about, यहाँ पर article 25 is particular act के लिए काफ़ी important है. Now that we've understood article 25, let us come back and understand certain provisions of this anti-conversion bill, wherein the first provision says that any person found guilty of unlawfully converting another person, अगर unlawful conversion हो रहा है, what do you mean by unlawful conversion? It means that conversion is allowed in our country. ऐसा नहीं है कि आप convert नहीं कर सकते. If you are a Hindu, you can be converted in, Islam. अगर आप इस्लाम को फॉलो करते हो, आप हिंदुइज्म को फॉलो कर सकते हो, और any other religion for that matter, right? This is legal and this is very much possible. It just willingly आपका होना चाहिए वो, ठीक है? If it is not willingly, if suppose I do not want to change my religion, and if somebody forces me to change it, that would be unlawful, ठीक है? और वो फिर illegal हो जाता है, right? So and जो भी मुझे force कर रहा है to change my religion will get a punishment, that is minimum jail term of 3 to 5 years and fine of 25,000. The next is, in case of mass conversion, the accused person can face 3 to 10 years of prison, ठीक है? So punishment जो है, punishment के clauses यहाँ पर काफ़ी important हैं. So you can remember that, and not just the punishment, they will also have a fine of 1 lakh rupees अगर mass conversion कोई करा रहा है किसी का forcefully. I'm talking about the forceful conversions here, right? And in case someone wants to convert to another religion voluntarily, there is a lengthy process in place, and that applies to interfaith marriages too. Then, but what exactly is the process? अगर आपको willingly करना है, तो what exactly is the process? You need to inform the district magistrate. So this is the body. District magistrate is the body जिनको आपको पहले बताना होता है, and it is 60 days. 60 days advance you need to inform to the district magistrate about the conversion. Only if he'll allow, or only if he'll allow, you can undergo religious conversion. और इसके बाद भी he'll give you, conversion के बाद भी he'll give you some specific days कि आपको आके उनको वापस रिपोर्ट करना होता है if everything is going well with you. अगर आप आके रिपोर्ट नहीं कर पाते हो due to any reason, आपका वो religious conversion unlawful मान लिया जाता है, right? Okay. And there is one more thing. अगर किसी का भी forceful conversion हुआ, and if that person is a minor, or if that person is a woman, or if that person belongs to SC or ST class, the punishment would be more, or the punishment would be higher than the normal instances. Normal human being के cases, ज़्यादा punishment you can get if you get this forceful conversion of minor or child or SCS, minor or woman or SC, ST people, right? So these are some of the provisions. Now, what are the challenges ahead? I have talked about that there are certain challenges when they came up with this anti-conversion law. What exactly are those challenges? Actually, Gujarat also had come up with certain laws, but they also had to face some of these challenges. वही challenges it is predicted कि Karnataka anti-conversion bill को भी हो सकते हैं. What was those challenges which Gujarat faced was that Gujarat government had also we've done this, but they put stay on things like one that places the burden of proof. You need to underline this and you need to understand this point. कि burden of proof on those entering into an interfaith marriages. ठीक है, उन्हीं के ऊपर burden of proof था, that they had to prove that this is this is basically actually they are only doing this, or since it could not actually take place, so उनको stay लगाना पड़ा, and it is predicted कि Karnataka also could face the same problem, इसीलिए this is happening, right? So This was all about polity. Next up, we have economy. And the first topic, which belongs to economy, is Delhi's new startup policy. We all know that recently there were news that Delhi has overtook Bangalore when we talk about the number of startups. They have recently registered around 5,000 startups, whereas if you talk about Bangalore, it was only 4,500 startups they've registered. So in today's context, we will try and understand how Delhi government is prioritizing the entrepreneurship and the startup facilities in the territory, and we will also understand the highlights and the components of this policy, right? So let us try and understand the highlights only. So what Delhi government is doing, the entrepreneurship classes and a business blasters program, they are giving this program called business blaster program to the college level students, so that they can start their own startups and be a leader in terms of, I mean, when we talk about the entrepreneurship. They're also providing collateral free loans for 2 years, so there will be no interest on the loans for 2 years to again encourage the startups. Then next, the highlight of the policy says that CAs या फिर lawyers या जितने भी experts होंगे जो भी startup के लिए which can help them in the startups would be free. The government is going to bear all the expenses of those lawyers and CAs, right? Next highlight or the next component is 1 to 2 years of leave. Suppose you're studying in Delhi Government College, right? You're from Delhi Government College and you have some you have some idea and you're starting your own startup. You can seek for 1 to 2 years of leave and focus on your startup. So this is also a very a point they have mentioned under the components of this recent policy, right? We've already discussed about what exactly is the idea behind the startup policy. That is to encourage the entrepreneurship and the startup in the UT. Now, if we talk about what exactly makes Delhi as a attractive destination, for that I have this news cutting wherein it provides the precise points. The first, it says that the industry department coordinate with 30 different agencies for giving approvals to new business, right? And that is with this integrated approach, they are going to build this entire structure. After this, 31 days is the maximum limit for giving electricity connection, which is best in Asia. Okay. After this, इंस्पेक्टर राज को भी वो कहीं ना कहीं रिमूव करने की कोशिश करेंगे अंडर दिस पॉलिसी, अंडर दिस स्टार्टअप पॉलिसी. गुड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर दे आर गोइंग टू प्रोवाइड सो दैट be it about the metro, so that the women can travel easily, right? They're going to provide 24/7 electricity, which I feel is already there in most of the places in Delhi. Then you have focus on green technology also, which will attract the energy related startups also. Now, if we talk about what exactly is the focus area, कि कौन से areas में हम startups को ज़्यादा encourage करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, that would be artificial intelligence and robotics. The next is automation and technical innovation. Cyber security is one, and a very important one, I guess. Then we have big data education. Apart from that, solid waste management या फिर green technology से related जितने भी startups हैं, the government is encouraging them. Apart from that, urban infrastructure planning and environment, like I've told you. Then we have renewable energy and clean energy technology से related जितने भी startups हैं, they are encouraging them as well. Apart from that, industrial revolution 4.0 technologies, maybe they are investing, and then creative ideas pertaining to what, be it agriculture, yeah, for e-commerce here, like for example Amazon and Flipkart we have. Then we have healthcare and logistics and transportation, rural innovation and e-governance, right? So these are some of the focus areas the government is planning to encourage the startup policies with, right? Up next, we have low wheat procurement. But in this particular topic, we will try and understand the context, obviously. But apart from that, we will also try to cover what are the causes and impacts or the effects of low wheat procurement. यहाँ पर जो सबसे important है for us to understand is what exactly are the reasons for low wheat procurement. ठीक है? Recently, what had happened? Wheat procurement by the government agency is set to dip to a 15-year low in the current marketing season. So we will try and understand why exactly this has happened, and I think that is the major area of this today's of today's topic. If we talk about certain numbers, so जो procurement हुआ है इस बरी is 18.5 million tons, but if we talk about the previous procurements, that was about 19 million ton. So this is, you can say, 15-year low procurement we have done, and this is the lowest since 11.11 million ton we did in 2007 and 8. तो इस साल हमने काफ़ी कम procurement करा है. Again, what are the reasons for this? So for that, I want you to look at this. Yeah, reasons for less procurement. I would divide the reasons into two parts. The first would be less export. And why exactly this less export? Because we know, because of the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, ग्लोबल मार्केट में काफ़ी ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम्स आए हैं, काफ़ी ज़्यादा ग्लिचेस आए हैं. इसकी वजह से एक्सपोर्ट में काफ़ी प्रॉब्लम्स हुए हैं ड्यू टू वॉर, राइट. एंड you can say less production भी less हुआ है because of, you can say, the temperature or the high temperature this season, जिसकी वजह से yield पे काफ़ी ज़्यादा impact हुआ है. Yield of the crop, yield of the wheat has reduced drastically. ठीक है, these are precisely the two reason. एक तो international reasons की वजह से हुआ है, and then another is due to the high temperature जिसकी वजह से impact पड़ा है yield पे काफ़ी ज़्यादा, right? So now that we are talking about wheat, ठीक है, I thought to talk about little bit, I thought to talk about crops, the more crops also, and the cropping pattern in our country. So as we all know, the cropping pattern, there are three types. We divide into Rabi, Kharif and Zaid. Rabi mein, we all know they are grown within the winter, and they're harvested in the summer. The crops which comes under this is wheat, barley, wheat, which we talked about in our today's topic, wheat, barley, peas, gram and mustard. This is a very important slide, I must say, because every now and then UPSC keeps asking questions about the cropping pattern of our country. और agriculture तो I am seeing कि कुछ time से agriculture काफ़ी important topic बन चुका है when it comes to prelims examination, especially also in mains, but prelims में काफ़ी questions आने लगे हैं about agriculture. So this is really important for us to remember all of it. When we talk about Kharif, they are grown with the onset of monsoon and they are harvested in September and October. The example of the Kharif crops would be paddy, maize, jowar, bajra, tur, moong. These are the dals. ठीक है, the pulses के ही एग्जाम्पल्स हैं. कॉटन और जूट और सोयाबीन भी खारिफ क्रॉप्स में आते हैं. जायद जो समर टाइम में, जो बीच का जो टाइम होता है दोनों क्रॉप्स के बीच में, इट इज़ अ वेरी शॉर्ट स्पैन. ठीक है, वाटरमेलन, मस्क मेलन, कुकुम्बर, ये सब हम उगाते हैं, कम्स अंडर जायद क्रॉप्स, राइट. And then apart from this, these are the major crops with the major states of our country. Let me just tell you कि कौन से स्टेट में कौन सी मेजर क्रॉप्स है जो हम उगाते हैं. अगेन अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट स्लाइड. दे कैन डायरेक्टली आस्क यू क्वेश्चन एज टू दिस पर्टिकुलर स्टेट, या फिर सबसे ज़्यादा प्रोडक्शन इस पर्टिकुलर क्रॉप का कौन से स्टेट में होता है. सो लेट अस फर्स्ट start with the northern most part, और wheat का ही हम example ले लेते हैं because wheat is our present topic also. So wheat, which is जो सबसे ज़्यादा आप बोल सकते हैं, not exactly सबसे ज़्यादा because सबसे ज़्यादा production यूपी में हो रहा है, but one of the largest production is happening in Punjab also, that is 17.17% of the total. Then it is happening in Uttar Pradesh, wherein 28.4 of the total production wheat is happening in Uttar Pradesh. ठीक है, one of the largest, right? And apart from that, rice का भी production वहाँ पर काफ़ी होता है in UP, which is 11.7% of the total production which we are doing in our country. उसके अलावा राजस्थान की अगर हम बात करें, राजस्थान में जो कोर्स सीरियल्स होते हैं, लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल बाजरा वगैरह हो गया, यहाँ पर वो काफ़ी उगता है, राइट. उसके अलावा पल्सेस इज ऑल्सो द एग्जाम्पल यू कैन से, एंड ऑयल सीड्स भी यहाँ पर काफ़ी ज़्यादा उगते हैं. देन next we come to the next state, which is Madhya Pradesh, wherein Wheat is grown for about 15% of the entire production. Apart from that, again, the pulses and the oil seeds in Madhya Pradesh as well, right? The next state, Gujarat, when we talk about oil seeds or cotton का production यहाँ पर सबसे ज़्यादा होता है. Maharashtra, the next state wherein pulses accounts for 10% and sugarcane में ये काफ़ी sugarcane और cotton का production यहाँ पर काफ़ी होता है. So if there are two crops I would recommend you to remember when we talk about Maharashtra, that would be sugarcane and कॉटन प्रोडक्शन, राइट. उसके अलावा कर्नाटका की हम बात करें तो शुगर केन अगैन और कोर्स सीरियल्स भी यहाँ पर उगते हैं, राइट. आंध्र प्रदेश अगैन राइस इज वन ऑफ द क्रॉप्स यू कैन रिमेंबर व्हेन इट कम्स टू आंध्र प्रदेश, एंड ऑफ कोर्स द कॉटन ऑल्सो ग्रोज हियर. वेस्ट बंगाल में जस्ट राइस यू रिमेंबर, आई थिंक राइस एंड जूट, एक्चुअली जूट का भी प्रोडक्शन यहाँ पर काफ़ी होता है, जूट फैक्ट्रीज भी हैं यहाँ पर. सो जूट एंड राइस यू कैन रिमेंबर. मेजर प्रोडक्शन इन्हीं का होता है यहाँ पर. जूट का मेजर प्रोडक्शन वी ऑल नो belongs to West Bengal, which is around 77.9% of the total production of jute in our country. Up next we have Assam, जहाँ पर again jute का production ही होता है. Not so many things are produced there, but yes, you can definitely quote if it comes. Jute is produced there, and Bihar also jute, right? So this is the major crop pattern and the major crop productions state-wise. All right. Up next we have the major wheat producers globally. So as you can see, China comes at number 1 place. तो ये चार्ट भी मैंने इसीलिए लगाया है so that you can remember कौन सा जो country है which stands at the first place when it comes to production of wheat. So China is the country. उसके बाद India comes after that in terms of wheat production, and this is in million metric tons, right? I'm telling you the unit as well. Okay. So that was all about wheat production. Up next, we have international relations, and the first topic which belongs to this subject is China-Taiwan relations. Again, this remains in news because of the China, its dominance over Taiwan. We will try and understand the historical background, little bit of historical background between China and Taiwan, and we will also see what exactly is the update which has happened between both the countries. So let us try and understand the context first. Taiwan hopes that world would sanction China like it sanctions Russia due to Russia-Ukrainian war. But what exactly is the background, or what exactly is the relation between the two countries? So Taiwan, we all know, is a self-governed country, but de facto agar hum baat kare to, right? But it has never formally declared independence from the mainland China, right? This we all know. So how exactly China treats Taiwan? So they actually treats Taiwan under or using one China policy, which says that Taiwan is their part only, right? So what exactly they're doing under the one country, two system formula, Taiwan would have the right to run its own affair. A similar arrangement is used in Hong Kong, but it says that it is not formally independent or, is different from China, right? So this you need to remember. But there's one thing here I want you to focus, which is, just a second, which is, AIDZ. And this is the controversial point and the reason why we are reading this China and Taiwan relation. So this is nothing but Air Defense Identification Zone. This is Air Defense Identification Zone, right? Air Defense Identification Zone. What do we understand by this? Suppose this is India, ठीक है? हमारे यहाँ पर suppose we create a boundary in the international or in the water I'm talking about, the international waters I'm talking about. तो हर एक country का ऐसे ही एक kind of boundary होती है which we call Air Defense Identification Zone, and in this boundary any other country's aircraft, I'm talking about aircraft, any other country's aircraft cannot enter without the permission of the present government. So if the government notifies that yes, you can come inside it, it can come, but if the government, if doesn't have the approval from the present government, it cannot come inside the AIDZ, which is Air Defense Identification Zone, and every country has it, of course, for the internal security of that country. So it is basically ek bol sakte ho, this is like a warning system, right? This is like a warning system. But what is the present issue here between China and Taiwan? So the present issue is China never asked Taiwan's government before entering their AIDZ, which is Air Defense Identification System, which definitely would bother Taiwan, or for that matter any other country. If you would try to invade somebody's privacy and somebody's internal security, they would definitely defend themselves and they would definitely do something about it. So this is exactly what is happening if we talk about ki issue kya hai. Issue is all about AIDZ. Now, if we talk about India's position on Taiwan, but I want कि India की position जानने से पहले हम India Taiwan की mapping portion पे थोड़ा सा जाएं और उसको समझें. So as you can see here, first let me take you to another map जहाँ पर आप इंडिया के पर्सपेक्टिव से चाइना और ताइवान को देख पाएंगे. सो दिस इज द मैप आई वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट. यू कैन सी दिस इज इंडिया हियर. इंडिया के पर्सपेक्टिव से इफ यू सी, चाइना इज लोकेटेड हियर एंड ताइवान इज हियर, right? This is the smaller, as you can see here, this is Taiwan, and if we zoom it in here, this is China and this is Taiwan Strait, which is present between China and Taiwan, and this is Taiwan. ठीक है, और ताइवान के ये चारों तरफ AIDZ है. AIDZ which China actually does not care about, and it keeps invading the privacy of Taiwan, right? Here if you see here, this is East China Sea. So some of the countries, some of the water bodies you can remember, if अगर आप कभी भी किसी भी टॉपिक को पढ़ रहे हैं उसके आसपास कोई वाटर बॉडी है, स्पेशली इफ यू आर रीडिंग अबाउट एनी स्पेसिफिक कंट्री और आइलैंड, एंड इफ देयर इज अ वाटर बॉडी प्रेजेंट, you must remember it, right? Okay, coming back to our previous map. Yeah, so this is China-Taiwan relationship. This is Taipei, as you can see here. So since always there has been a rocky relationship between the two countries. And अगर हम थोड़ा historical background की बात करें, so China has claimed sovereignty over self-ruled Taiwan since the end of the Chinese Civil War in 1949. और अगर हम कुछ major conflicts और clashes की बात करें between the two countries, so the major crisis happened in 1954-55, then it again happened. So it happened thrice between the two countries, and it might happen again as well. We never know. Situations are like that. 54-55, then it happened in 1958-59, and then third time it happened in 1955 and 96. So these are the three times the crisis between the two countries happened, right? And the upcoming talks also focus on the opening of regular direct flights between the two countries. You must also remember the neighboring countries when we talk about any of the country which is present in news. So yeah, the neighboring countries, and I've already told you about the neighboring river or the water bodies. All right, so coming back to our the same question, that what is the India's stand on Taiwan? Actually, when it comes to Taiwan, we actually do not have any formal diplomatic relation with Taiwan, right? This is the first thing you need to know, that we do not have any formal diplomatic relation, though we do have a good relation with Taiwan in terms of we do have ties in a lot of areas, a lot of spheres, be it be it in terms of tourism or education, right, or health. So these are a few areas where we have good ties with Taiwan, but again, no formal relation we share with Taiwan, right? No formal diplomatic relation I'm talking about. Okay, so this is it about China-Taiwan relationship. Up next, we have our next GS paper, which is Science and Technology, and the first topic which belongs to Science and Technology would be lunar eclipse, blood moon. Here we are going to understand why it was in the news, and we will also try and understand, and we'll also actually try to distinguish between the the super moon or the blood moon and the blue moon and everything I'm going to tell you. So what recently has happened, that a total lunar eclipse या फिर चंद्र ग्रहण जिसको हम बोलते हैं in Hindi will occur over South America and most of the North American parts of Europe and Africa. But again, what's more important for our examination perspective is to understand what exactly lunar eclipse is and what is this super moon. For that, I would want you to look at this picture wherein it talks about anatomy of lunar eclipse, and it says ki lunar eclipse can only occur when. So this condition you need to remember, because this is a very confusing thing, and they can change the positions and confuse you with the question they ask. Okay, so it can only occur at full moon. First point you need to remember, right? The second thing you need to remember, the second factual point you need to remember is when the earth blocks the sunlight normally reflected by the moon, and some sunlight is bent through the earth atmosphere, typically along the moon's, ठीक है, कॉपरी ग्लो होता है, कॉपर जैसे कलर का वो ग्लो करने लगता है. एंड दिस डायग्राम नॉट टू द स्केल लुक्स डाउन, this as you can see here, right? This, if you see, penumbra is the lighter area, and umbra we call it, it is the darkest area we have, right? And this is the precisely the condition which is needed for lunar eclipse to happen. When we talk about the supermoon actually, supermoon hota kya hai? Supermoon is that moon when the moon is at perigee. Now perigee, you can remember it with with a word, or you can say near. P stands for perigee, P stands for pass or near, you can say. So that is how you can try to remember it. So it is the shortest distance from the earth, and what? When the moon basically is 14% larger and 30% brighter than when it is at the apogee or the other side, or the farthest side, right? As this is also, as you can see here. तो जो सबसे पास होता है, when it is at the closest distance to earth, we call it supermoon. But you also should understand the differences between the supermoon and the blood moon and the blue moon. For that I have this for you. You can take a screenshot of it. Supermoon, we call it when the full moon closes in its orbit to earth, and it is again 14% brighter and 14% bigger and 30% brighter. When we talk about blue moon, what is the condition? So jab second full moon hota hai in a month, it does not appear blue though, but if the second full moon in a month, we call it blue moon. And when we talk about blood moon, it appears as red tint color का वो दिखता है, red tint, the earth's shadow cast on the moon during the lunar eclipse, और इसलिए वो हमें थोड़ा reddish दिखता है. We call it blood moon. So these were the differences between them. You must remember, क्योंकि ये काफ़ी confusing है, and they can confuse you with the options, right? Up next we have tissue culture plans. Tissue culture plans. In this particular slide, we will first understand कि tissue culture होता क्या है. Of course, after the context only. So context कहता है कि APEDA, which is Agricultural and Processed Food Products Export Development Authority, they have recently conducted a seminar जहाँ पर export promotion of tissue culture को वहाँ पर उन्होंने conduct किया webinar on this particular topic of what plants such as foliage, live plants, cut flowers and planting material. सबसे पहले हमें ये जानने की ज़रूरत है टिश्यू कल्चर है क्या. टिश्यू कल्चर बेसिकली इट इज़ अ कल्चरिंग प्लांट सीड्स, ऑर्गन एक्सप्लांट्स या टिश्यू सेल्स. तो कुछ भी चीज़ को हम लेके, बीट any explants or the tissue or the cell or the protoplast, we take anything on the agar medium. It is a synthetic medium जहाँ पर हमारे सारे plant के growth hormones होते हैं, right? We grow these things in that media under the sterile conditions so that the contamination could not happen. Right? I am sure ये समझ नहीं आया होगा, but I have a diagrammatic representation for your better clarity. So before we move to the advantages of tissue culture, let us try and understand it with a diagram. And here is the diagram wherein the first step would be we take a sample from the parent plant, right? कोई भी tissue हम cut करके parent plant से ले लेंगे. Then the second what we will do, we will put the sample in the agar medium. It is a growth medium जहाँ पर हमारे सारे nutrients और plant growth hormones present होते हैं. And the third step would be the sample after some days would develop the tiny plantlets, and then those plantlets will be planted into the compost. This is how the tissue culture works, and everything should be done under a sterile condition so that the contamination actually should not happen. Varna, a lot of things, there is a possibility that the other unwanted things could also grow, right? Okay, so moving to the previous slide, and it says what are the advantages of tissue culture. As you have understood the meaning of tissue culture, now you must understand what are the advantages of tissue culture. And for that, you need to have a look at this advantages. The first is it is very quick to grow a plant, right? It is a very quick procedure, और quickness हम इसका जो है वो किस चीज से compare कर रहे हैं, then the any conventional method we use for the growth of plant. It also reduces the chances of diseases. Since we are we are conducting the entire procedure in the sterile condition without any contamination, तो diseases होना भी in plants में काफ़ी ज़्यादा हद तक हम control कर सकते हैं. This is one of the biggest advantages I feel of the tissue culture. And next we have genetic plant material. Suppose देर इज अ प्लांट, ठीक है, और वो एक्सटेंट हो सकता है, तो हम उसका जेनेटिक प्लांट मटेरियल अपने पास स्टोर कर सकते हैं और टिश्यू कल्चर की हेल्प से हम उसको लेबोरेटरी में ग्रो करवा सकते हैं, राइट? तो जो स्पीशीज हैं वो बेसिकली एक्सटिंक्ट नहीं होंगी. सो बेसिकली टू सेव सच स्पीशीज फ्रॉम एक्सटेंशन वी कैन यूज और वी कैन टेक द हेल्प ऑफ टिश्यू कल्चर टेक्नोलॉजीज. बट वी नो कि along with advantages, the issues are always there, the challenges are always there. So let us try and understand what are some of the issues related with tissue culture. Issues. So the first issue would be, though we have talked about कि sterile conditions होने चाहिए, contamination नहीं होना चाहिए, but no matter how much we try, there will be the chances of contamination, and this is one of the issues related with tissue culture कि कंटामिनेशन होने के काफ़ी ज़्यादा चांसेस होते हैं, ठीक है. कंटामिनेशन वुड नॉट गिव द डिज़ायर्ड रिजल्ट. डेफिनेटली डिज़ायर्ड रिजल्ट हमें मिलेंगे नहीं इसकी वजह से. ओके, देन वी हैव पुअर स्किल्ड वर्कफोर्स. प्रॉपर ट्रेनिंग लोगों के पास नहीं होती है. स्किल्ड वर्कफोर्स हमारे इस एरिया में, इस इंडस्ट्री में रिलेटेड टू प्लांट टेक्नोलॉजीज मिलता नहीं है. दिस इज़ वन ऑफ द चैलेंजेस वी आर फेसिंग दीज डेज. सो मे बी वी नीड टू टीच मोर एंड मोर पीपल एंड ब्रिंग देम इनटू दिस पर्टिकुलर फील्ड सो दैट टिश्यू कल्चर could be made highly advanced. So these are the two challenges. Apart from that, I feel the major challenge is cost of transportation. Cost of transportation भी काफ़ी ज़्यादा होता है. अगर एक जगह अगर हमने उगा तो लिया है अपने लेबोरेटरीज में यूजिंग टिश्यू कल्चर, बट इफ वी नीड टू ट्रांसपोर्ट इट फ्रॉम वन प्लेस टू अनदर, द कॉस्ट इज रियली हाई, एंड अगेन there are very less chances that the laboratory people can really afford it, right? Apart from that, increase in power cost के area में भी there could be, we can see an increase, and which is again a challenge, right? Okay, so these are the advantages and the issues we have talked about. So issues हम already cover कर चुके हैं. When if we talk about India's export, कि हम जो भी उगा रहे हैं in our laboratories using this particular technology, उसका कितना percentage हम we are exporting, and to how many countries exactly we are exporting. So the top 10 countries importing tissue cultures from our country are, the first would be Netherlands, then US, Italy, Australia, Canada, Japan, Kenya, Senegal, Ethiopia, and Nepal. So these are few countries we are exporting the tissue culture plants to, right? We have already understood the entire procedure. Up next, we have Event Horizon reveals true colors of SGR-A, which is Sagittarius A. यहाँ पर काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें हैं समझने के लिए. The first thing is, let us start from the first thing. What is Event Horizon? Then the second would be, what is SGRA? Then the third would be, what is black hole? So these are 2-3 things we are going to understand in this particular slide. So recently, the scientists from Event Horizon Telescope Facility, which you can see here in the map, the red color dot depicts the data available in Sagittarius A black hole study, right? So these are the countries. Coming back to this, so they have said they've come up with a study, and this image of this black hole referred to as Sagittarius A. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you the exact image, don't worry. It gave a further support to the idea that compact objects at the center of our galaxy is indeed a black hole. So they gave us this picture of Sagittarius A, right? Now, the question, now there's one question which might be there in your mind, that do we did we not have any black hole picture before this? Yes, we had, but the only difference between this picture and the previous ones we had of black hole is that this one belongs to our own galaxy, right? Our galaxy, right? I'm sure बहुत clarity नहीं होगी. For that, you need to look at this. So at the heart of the Milky Way, you can see here, is a supermassive black hole, जिसको हमने Sagittarius A बोला है, and it has mass of 4 million suns. So it is heavier than the sun. And why is it different, and why it is a breakthrough, you can say discovery, because it is present in our own galaxy, Milky Way galaxy, right? Milky Way galaxy is a home to more than 100 million black hole. तो हमें ये अभी ये मिला है, and yeah, so this is it. Next we have, if we try to decipher this more, so as you can see, this is black hole, this is event horizon, right? Event horizon, from where there's no return back, we all know. So this is event horizon. Okay, up next you will see here about, let's read something about black holes. So we have understood about Sagittarius A, ठीक है, we have understood about event horizon. अब हम थोड़ा सा ब्लैक होल के बारे में पढ़ लेते हैं. ब्लैक होल अगेन इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक. आपको सेपरेटली भी यूपीएससी पूछ सकता है, रिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ यू नो व्हाट इज देयर इन द न्यूज. सो स्ट्रक्चर, अगर हम ब्लैक होल के स्ट्रक्चर की इफ यू टॉक अबाउट, so there are 2-3 things we are going to read when we talk about the structure of the black hole. First is singularity, and singularity again is an important topic. UPSC has asked question on it, right? It is basically a point where whole mass of black hole is concentrated, right? पूरा जो मास है वो एक ही जगह पे कॉन्सेंट्रेट होता है, इसी को हम सिंगुलैरिटी कहते हैं. व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट द फोटोन स्फेयर, दिस इज द फोटोन स्फेयर, एज यू कैन सी, ये बेसिकली आउटर एज होता है where the light bends but it is escapable, right? Event horizon, we have already, it is a point of no return. तो no return, it is a point of no return, जहाँ से कुछ भी वापस नहीं आ सकता है बेसिकली, और ये ब्लैक होल को सराउंड करता है. We have seen it in this particular picture. This is the black hole, right? And the area surrounding it is the event horizon. All right. And if we talk about the accretion disk, so it is a disk of what? So many gases, dust and stars, okay? Or it could be also a plant falling into what? The black hole. All right. Then let us now see what are some of the different types of black holes. The first would be stellar mass black hole. Stellar mass black hole, this is the picture. So when I tell you, you must look at the picture also, so for your better understanding and better connection. Stellar mass black hole जो है वो they are created how? जब बहुत massive star जो है वो explode होता है, leaving behind the black hole with the mass of just few suns. We call it stellar mass. Supermassive क्या होता है? Supermassive में when the black hole exit in the heart of the galaxies and usually contain the mass equivalent to the millions and billions of suns, and that is precisely the reason we call it as supermassive black hole. Intermediate black hole, जब कोई such bodies could form when stars collide in a chain reaction and usually contain the mass equivalent to hundreds and thousands of sun. We call it intermediate black holes. Okay, so this was about the science and technology part, wherein we understood a lot of things, be it the black hole or the event horizon or Sagittarius A and the entire context of it. Okay, up next we have environment and ecology, and The first topic belongs to this particular topic is coal gasification. Again, an important topic. हम यहाँ पर समझेंगे why is it important for our environment, ठीक है, not just for our UPSC examination, but coal gasification करना हमारे environment के लिए काफ़ी ज़रूरी क्यों है? So the very, a very simple answer to this question is because it reduces the pollution, right? If we burn the coal just like that, there are chances of a lot of pollution. बट कोल गैसिफिकेशन करने के बाद हम सिन गैस में उसको कन्वर्ट कर देते हैं रेजिड्यूज को, एंड दैट सिन गैस फर्दर हेल्प्स इन reducing the harmful emissions, or you can say it is not that much harmful for the environment. Although syngas is made up of a lot of things, it is a synthetic gas which is made up of methane and carbon monoxide and all of those things. So what is the present context to help India become energy independent? Ministry of Coal has proposed 50% concession in revenue share to promote the coal gasification. Coal gasification समझने के लिए I have a video for you so that you can have a better clarity, exact clarity as to what coal gasification is and how is it done. And benefits, though we have already discussed, कि environment के लिए this is really useful because synthetic gas में ये basically convert करता है. So let us have a look at this.
Syngas can be easily converted into liquid fuels, synthetic natural gas, and for power generation. UCG enables deep coals that are not suitable for conventional mining to be converted into valuable products. Simply put, UCG works like this. A vertical production well is drilled into the coal seam, which can be located more than 300 meters and up to 2 kilometers below the surface. Once the well is being drilled, steel casing and special high-temperature cement are installed from surface to the coal seam to ensure isolation from any groundwater activities. The injection well is then drilled horizontally in the coal seam to intersect the production well. The well is drilled along the bottom of the coal seam in order to maximize the amount of coal converted into gas. A coiled tubing unit is rigged up over the injection well in preparation for startup of the gasifier. The injection well is connected to surface facilities and the oxygen supply equipment. The UCG surface facilities are of modular design. To start the UCG process, an ignition tool is connected to the coil tubing and inserted into the injection well. The ignition tool then travels through the injection well and is positioned ready for ignition. Heat generated from the ignition tool and the oxygen pumped from the surface start the coal gasification process. The startup sequence only takes a couple of hours. Sustained gas production is achieved by pumping large quantities of oxygen into the well. The gasification process involves the carbon from the coal reacting with steam to form carbon monoxide and hydrogen. The UCG site is chosen very carefully in order to ensure that the high temperature zone is contained within the coal seam. The byproducts of the UCG process remain behind within the coal seam as ash. The syngas, which contains a high percentage of carbon monoxide, hydrogen, and methane, flows from the gasification chamber through the horizontal connection in the coal seam and up the production well. Syngas is piped to a nearby plant for conversion into liquid fuels such as diesel and jet fuel, synthetic natural gas, chemicals for power production. The process is repeated along the length of the injection well, converting all the coal in the vicinity of the well into syngas. In commercial operations, multiple gasifiers are operated simultaneously to produce the required syngas and produce very large quantities of energy from a small footprint. There are many benefits to UCG, including access to deep stranded coal without the need for mining, higher energy intensity than other processes, minimal surface disturbance, no people underground. After UCG operation
I hope the entire process of coal gasification and some of its benefits are clear to you now. Moving ahead, we will now look at some of the world's biggest coal exporters, and then we will also talk about the India's coal dependency and in Indian perspective as well. But before that, let us look at some of the world's biggest coal exporters, wherein the first biggest exporter is Indonesia, right? And it is a graph of 2019, but Indonesia still, is one of the biggest exporters only. Then next comes is Australia, Russia. I want at least आपको तीन major exporters याद रहें. So the first three you can remember, rest you can't remember all of them definitely, but the three major exporters you must remember in terms of coal. Now, when we talk about the coal dependency, India's coal dependency, how much dependent we are, or the industries in our country are on coal. So India is the second largest importer and consumer and even the producer also of coal, and has the world's fourth largest reserve. Mainly we import from Indonesia. ठीक है, Indonesia से हम सबसे ज़्यादा import करते हैं. Then we also import from Australia. So these are some of the facts you can remember with Indian perspective. Apart from that, here we have a map when we talk about the distribution of coal in our country. So this is the map which will precisely tell you how coal is distributed in our country. जिसमें से सबसे ज़्यादा you will see, as you can see here, this is a graph, or this is a bar of Jharkhand, wherein 35% of the entire country's coal is produced. Then after that, we have the second number goes to Orissa, which is 15%. Then we have West Bengal. So this you need to remember, at least remember the three states. Apart from that, there is this one point you need to remember, that in Assam also there is some quantity of coal which is produced. So you can remember that as well. अरुणाचल प्रदेश में भी आपको थोड़ा मिलता है. ठीक है, तो ये नॉर्थ ईस्ट पार्ट भी आप याद रखें. उसके अलावा you will find the coal in Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh and Chhattisgarh too, and even in UP, like some amount of it, a certain amount you'll find in UP as well. So this is the distribution of coal in our country. So that was all about coal gasification and its process and everything. Next up, we have direct seeding of rice. Direct seeding of rice, recently क्या हुआ है that there are rupees 1500 incentives the Punjab government has announced per acre for farmers opting for direct seeding of rice. So they're giving 1500 का incentive for those farmers जो कि DSR को adopt करेंगे. DSR, I'll be calling it as DSR only इसके बाद. ठीक है, DSR is direct seeding of rice. In this particular segment, we are going to understand what DSR is, and of course, why is it that important that they are giving incentive for the farmers to adopt them. So what basically are the advantages of it? And then definitely, apart from the advantages, we are also going to cover the issues and the challenges related to DSR. So what happens in DSR? Here, the pre-germinated seeds are directly drilled into the field by the tractor-powered machine. तो pre-germinated seeds को हम लेते हैं, germinate उनको कराते हैं, pre-germinated seeds को पहले ही, and then we drill them into the field using the machines or the tractor basically. Advantage, yeah. So two things, like any other topic. There are two things which is related to this also. The advantages of DSR. So basically in this particular segment, we will try and understand how DSR is different from the conventional method we use when we sow the seeds, and we will also see some of the disadvantages of DSR, right? So to first and the foremost advantage of DSR when we talk about, so it is basically a water saving technique. Water saving technique, or it saves water. Do you know that when we conventionally sow a seed, it takes around 4000 liters of water for 1 kg of rice? But using this particular technology of DSR, we will save 15 to 20% of water we use in the conventional method, right? So this will be really, really helpful, and this is the biggest advantage, and that is why Punjab also has adopted this particular technology, because it is helping them in saving the water of the state, right? Up next, we have this also requires less labor, right? Apart from saving the water, it also requires less labor if you compare it with the conventional method, जहाँ पर बहुत सारा एक field के लिए बहुत सारा labor required होता था, right? Apart from that, the next advantage would be the cost of herbicides would be reduced. Since we are pre-germinating it, we will make sure कि हम कुछ उनको इस तरीके से pre-germinate करें कि पेस्ट और डिजीज कंट्रोल या फिर हर्बिसाइड्स का जो यूज है वो हमें बाद में कम करना पड़े. सो द कॉस्ट ऑटोमेटिकली विल बिकम low when we use DSR technique, right? Then we have methane emission. Methane emission also would be less, क्योंकि राइस के फील्ड्स में यू मस्ट हैव सीन दैट वी नीड टू फ्लड द फील्ड, और इसमें फ्लडिंग की बहुत कम ज़रूरत होती है, एंड हेंस इट विल ऑटोमेटिकली reduce the emissions also in the environment. But there, along with apart from the advantages, it also held a lot of disadvantages. Like for example, herbicides. Here we have seen कि herbicides हमें कम use करना पड़ेगा और the cost will automatically be reduced. But this also has a disadvantage कि herbicides की availability हमें नहीं मिलती है, right? The desired herbicides we can use in DSR, उसकी availability अक्सर नहीं होती है. Again, is one of the issues the farmers faces. Apart from that, the seed requirement of DSR is very is more than the conventional method. So seed required for DSR is more than conventional methods of sowing, right? तो एक तरफ हमने पढ़ा कि आपका cost कई चीज़ों में कम हो रहा है, बट ऑन दी अनदर हैंड वी आर ऑल्सो सीइंग कि हमारा कॉस्ट बढ़ भी रहा है. सो थिंग्स आर इंक्रीजिंग also. Then you have the next disadvantage is sowing needs to be done on the time. Sowing of seeds needs to be done on time, right? कन्वेंशनल में हमारे पास जितनी फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी होती है, DSR में कंपैरेटिवली वी डू नॉट हैव दैट मच फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी. तो एग्जैक्ट जो अप्रोप्रिएट टाइम होता है उसी टाइम पे वी नीड टू सो द सीड्स, ठीक है? और अगर थोड़ा आगे पीछे हो गया तो आपको डिजायर रिजल्ट्स अगेन यू वोंट गेट द यील्ड्स यू डिजायर फॉर, राइट? So these are some of the advantages and disadvantages or the limitations of DSR technology. All right. Up next we have drought in numbers 2022 report. So अभी एक report आई है जिसने drought के कुछ figure कुछ stats को हमें बताया है. We know that if we talk about our country is severely drought impacted country. तो severe category में हमारा कंट्री फॉल करता है व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट द ड्राउट कंडीशंस. रिसेंटली COP15 हुआ था. COP15 टू दी व्हाट UNCCD which is United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, ठीक है? सो रिसेंटली दिस हैज हैपेंड, जिसके थ्रू कुछ रिपोर्ट्स रिलीज हुई हैं. What are the highlights of the reports? We will understand that, right? उसके अलावा we will also see some of the areas जहाँ पर drought like conditions बहुत ज़्यादा हमें देखने को मिलेंगी. But the highlights of the reports, the first highlight of the reports which COP15 में जो आई है, it says that the frequency and the duration of the drought is increasing. ठीक है, अभी काफ़ी फ्रिक्वेंटली हमें ड्राउट्स देखने को मिल रहे हैं. एंड सिंस द ईयर 2000 देयर हैज़ बीन 29% ऑफ द इंक्रीज इन द फ्रिक्वेंसी एंड ड्यूरेशन ऑफ द ड्राउट्स अराउंड द वर्ल्ड. दिस इज अबाउट अराउंड द वर्ल्ड. इफ इंडिया की अगर हम बात करें तो ऑलमोस्ट 30% हमारी लैंड डिग्रेड हो चुकी है, राइट? इन 2018 और 2019 में, राइट? सो दिस मच वी हैव ऑलरेडी लॉस्ट. ओके, and overall अगर आप बात करो in terms of I'm talking about the Indian perspective only, so 57% जो है 57% ड्राउट के कंडीशंस इंक्रीज हो चुके हैं फ्रॉम विच लेवल, फ्रॉम 1997 लेवल. हाउ मच percentage has increased? 57% drought like conditions has increased if we compare today's scenario with 1997, right? Okay, so what so this is basically the drought, the order of the day. I mean यहाँ पर आप ये देखें 150 years में India's experience of organized drought management, 68% जो है 68% of the zone area subject to varying degrees of drought every year. हम आगे एक और मैप देखेंगे जहाँ पर drought like conditions पे का yield पे कैसे impact हुआ. We will be analyzing that also. But उसके अलावा 50 million people affected by the drought every year, and 750 to 1125 mm annual rainfall मोस्ट ड्राउट प्रोन एरियाज गेट. ठीक है, और जो नेशनल जो एवरेज है दैट इज 1183. तो वी आर नॉट इवन गेटिंग द एवरेज रेनफॉल लीडिंग टू द ड्राउट लाइक कंडीशंस, राइट? Next, since I was telling you about the impacts of drought-like conditions, तो हम कुछ impacts को देखेंगे. But before that, it is basically, we call it a disaster also. It is a slow disaster जो धीरे धीरे आता है, but it can lead to a bigger disaster also. So it thus giving enough time to prepare. Yet we have time to prepare because it grows eventually. It grows gradually. It is not those type of disaster. ये cyclone की तरह नहीं है. We do have time, but let's see how we actually work regarding this. But in recent decades, drought has emerged as one of the biggest drivers of human life loss, and economic losses भी काफी ज़्यादा हो रहे हैं because of the drought like conditions. So concern काफ़ी है, not just for India. I have already told you those facts, those stats about India, wherein it is really concerning for our country, and we need to really implement certain policy which we decide on, which we just decided UNCCD maybe, or personally be like on our national level also. So we need to implement those policy. Drought has affected the availability of minor forest produce. So minor forest produce या कुछ forest produce के context में अगर हम बात करें कि drought ने उनको कैसे impact करा है, this is the map which is, you know, the map is showing how minor forest produce got impacted due to drought. तो मध्य प्रदेश में इन मांडला डिस्ट्रिक्ट तेंदू एंड महुआ का जो प्रोडक्शन था वो 30% डिप हुआ, 30% एंड 25% रिस्पेक्टिवली डिप हुआ है, राइट? सो दिस डेफिनेटली अ वेरी गुड एग्जांपल यू कैन कोट इन योर मेंस एग्जामिनेशन. केरला की अगर हम बात करें, केरला में जो वायनाड डिस्ट्रिक्ट है आपने सुना होगा, वहाँ पर हनी कलेक्शन का जो डिक्लाइन है वो भी काफ़ी हुआ है, एंड देयर इज अ ड्रास्टिक डिक्लाइन विच इज 90% हैज़ reduced. The 90% the honey collection has declined. Then छत्तीसगढ़ की अगर हम बात करें, छत्तीसगढ़ में अगेन तेंदू लीफ जो होता है 33% उसका प्रोडक्शन डिक्रीज हुआ है. Then we have Odisha wherein we have witnessed 40% dip in collection of forest produce in 6 poorest districts of Odisha. Then if we talk about Uttarakhand, जहाँ पर ideally ये सब चीज़ें नहीं होनी चाहिए because that is a very sensitive area, Uttarakhand and the hilly areas I'm talking about. But there also 74,000 hectares in 7 hill district with 45% forest cover declared drought hit. This is a big number and a very, very concerning point. So you can also add it into the concerns for India, और इसमें आप काफ़ी सारे areas भी include कर सकते हो, be it forest और hilly areas पे क्या impact है, forest पे क्या impact है, right? Economic losses क्या है, social losses क्या है. तो आप you know, when you're writing your mains examination, all the dimensions you need to cover pertaining to any particular topic. All right? Okay. Up next, we have UNCCD Conference of Parties, COP15, recently held. But before getting into, and it happened in Western Africa. Okay, before getting into what exactly, what were the provisions or what exactly happened in this meeting, I want to tell you about little bit about the historical background or the birth of UNCCD. ठीक है? But for that you need to understand about UNEP. ठीक है, 1972 में this body came, United Nations Environmental Program. We all are aware of this. Yes, before this there was no environmental body. You can say that WMO was there. WMO is World Meteorological Organization, so that was there. But WMO was not a pure body which used to deal with the environmental problems. तो इसीलिए क्योंकि कोई particular body nahi thi. We had to come up with a body which purely or properly deals with the environmental conditions. And then in 1972 we came up with UNEP, which is United Nations Environmental Program. Now after that, IPCC came. IPCC came in 1988, ठीक है, with the help of UNEP plus WMO, which is World Meteorological Organization, ठीक है. और इस IPCC ने क्या करना शुरू करा, and what precisely this IPCC, basically this is not a scientific body. First of all, you need to remember this. एक कोई scientific body नहीं है, right? What basically this IPCC is doing, ये actually कोई ground work अपने आप नहीं करती है. It asks the scientist of the of the particular countries जहाँ की भी इनको report publish करनी होती है. So they ask the scientist about the report कि आप अपने particular country की report हमें दीजिए, and then we will further forward it to the government, right? And those reports are called assessment reports. Assessment reports, right? और AR, right? Assessment reports. तो ऐसे ही कुछ reports आए हैं, and we have 6 reports up till now. So IPCC has given 6 reports up till now. In our today's lecture, not every report is important. ठीक है, we are not going to read about all the 6 reports, but definitely the first report is very important. तो जब first report आई, first report suggested that we need to come up with some summit, और उसी summit और उस summit के साथ हम आए, and that summit is known as Rio Earth Summit. Rio Earth Summit of 1992. And the outcomes of that summit, what exactly happened in Rio Earth Summit, उसमें हम 4 outcomes के साथ आए. Those 4 outcomes, or those outcomes were, first was Agenda 21, right? Second was UNCBD. Third was UNCCD. ठीक है, और यहाँ पर these were the main you can say the outcomes of Rio Earth Summit, and this deals with desertification. ठीक है, this deals with the desertification. So I hope now you know कि UNCCD, UNCCD actually कहाँ से आया है, right? Okay, report number 2 actually dealt with Kyoto Protocol. I'm just telling you, not like related with our today's topic, but just for your knowledge, 1997 का जो Kyoto Protocol है, 2 related with that, 3 also related with the implementation of Kyoto Protocol. Only 5th one is important for you, 4th is not that important, 5th one is important for you because it dealt with the Paris climate change, or you can say Paris Climate Agreement. ठीक है, Paris Climate Agreement. Okay, Paris Climate Agreement, ठीक है, but again that's not our today's topic, so we won't get there. So yeah, this was the birth of UNCCD. Now let us try and understand about COP 15. जो theme था इस बार COP 15 का was land, life, legacy, from scarcity to prosperity. This was the theme. You can remember the theme. You never know, they can ask you, the direct question could come about. So ऐसे कुछ facts आप याद रख सकते हैं. Is a call to action to ensure land, the lifeline on this planet, continues to benefit the present and the future generation. That was the major agenda behind this particular theme and the conference itself. If we talk about UNCCD, it got established in 1994 after that Rio Summit as an outcome of Rio Earth Summit, and it is the legally binding, it is the only legally binding international agreement. Again, this is a really important point, whether UNCCD is a legally binding agreement or not, and it is the only agreement in the world which deals with the problems of desertification in the world, right? So these are the 2 questions. Legally binding hai ya nahi? Yes, it is legally binding. Is it the only body which deals with the desertification or the problems of desertification? Yes, definitely it is the only major body. Okay, now it is the only agreement linking the environment and development to the sustainable land management, and it is the only convention stemming from a direct recommendation of the Rio Earth summit, we have already done it, right? I feel जो मैंने आपको बताया है, that was the most important part, क्योंकि at times people get confused into from what exactly this CCD, what exactly this UNEP, and how all of them are connected, ठीक है? So that chart you can make, which I made for your better understanding. Up next we have geography, right? And the very first topic related to the next subject is cyclone. And there was a cyclone called Asani in Odisha and Andhra Pradesh. So there are 2-3 things you need to remember when such topic comes. First, you need to remember about which all states it belongs to, right? And then next, if there is some important or major facts regarding that particular cyclone. The first is if you talk about the facts. So this particular thing, this particular cyclone will be called Sitrang, a name given by Thailand. This is a name given by Thailand, but we will always remember it with the name we have for it. Here, what is important for us to understand it is what are tropical cyclones, right? How they are formed, and what are the factors which are needed for the formation of a tropical cyclone. Okay, so tropical cyclone. Let me just first list out some of the factors, some of the major factors. There are actually so many factors which are needed for the formation of a tropical cyclone, but some of the major factors which are needed would be Coriolis force. Coriolis force, okay, which deviates the wind. We all must have learned it in our geographic books, which deviates the wind in right and the left side in the northern and the southern hemisphere respectively. Okay, so Coriolis force is needed. Second is temperature. We need a particular temperature which is around 27 degrees Celsius. ये मैं surface sea temperature बता रही हूँ, ठीक है? तो इतना temperature हमें चाहिए है for the formation of a cyclone, right? Next, we would need ITCZ, intertropical convergence zone, हमें चाहिए होगा, right? Because it has a low pressure area, wherever it shifts, so it keeps shifting. तो जहाँ भी ये shift होता है, it creates a low pressure, and low pressure is very much needed for the intensification of a tropical cyclone, right? Then the fourth factor, which is very important, is the vertical wind share. Vertical wind share should be less, which means कि जो ऊपर winds चल रही हैं उनकी speed जो है should be less, else the cloud formation won't happen. And if the cloud formation won't happen, precipitation won't happen, and the intensification of the formation, even the formation only, intensification is a second step, but even the formation only of tropical cyclone won't happen if the precipitation doesn't happen, right? So these are few conditions or the few factors which are very much needed for the formation of tropical cyclones. Now let us try and understand, suppose all the factors are available. Now let us see how exactly tropical cyclone is formed. But there is one more point I would like to mention here, that at equator tropical cyclone doesn't form because the Coriolis force is absent at the tropical. ठीक है? तो जब हम tropics की बात कर रहे हैं, remember we are not talking about equator. ठीक है, वी आर नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट इक्वेटर एग्जैक्टली, क्योंकि इक्वेटर पे कोरियोलिस फोर्स ही नहीं है, तो देर इज नो चांस ऑफ फॉर्मेशन ऑफ द साइक्लोन्स देयर, राइट? सो दिस इज water body, right? 27 degree, around 27 degree Celsius temperature. Winds, since this is a low temperature here, ठीक है, winds would converge towards this, ठीक है? यहाँ पर converge होने के बाद winds would rise up, right? Winds would rise up, and ऊपर जाते time these winds will cool down, and as they will cool down, they will come down in the form of precipitation. Here, as you can see here, there will be a formation of latent heat. Latent heat का formation यहाँ पर होगा, and this latent heat will allow or will let the air to get warm in this particular region. इस particular region में, सिर्फ इस particular region में जो हवाएं हैं, they will become warm and they will subside down. ठीक है, they will subside down. But you need to remember this cycle wherein the airs are going up, getting cooled, and then precipitation is happening. ठीक है, फिर से ये यहाँ पर लो टेम्परेचर की तरफ अट्रैक्ट होंगी, राइट, एंड द साइकिल विच इज हैपनिंग एट बोथ द साइड्स विल कीप हैपनिंग, और जैसे जैसे प्रेसिपिटेशन या मॉइस्चर मिलता रहेगा विंड्स को, इट द साइक्लोन विल कीप intensifying itself, right? So this is exactly the formation and some of the factors. The in detail you will read in your geography books, but briefly this was about the cyclonic tropical cyclones formation. Up next we have our next topic, which belongs to art and culture, and this is the last topic of our today's lecture. A very famous personality we are going to discuss today, Rabindranath Tagore, Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. Recently, 161st birth anniversary we have celebrated on May 7, and that is why it was in news. And even if this wasn't in news, this is a really important personality for for our history perspective. If we talk about or personality ke questions UPSC keeps asking, so every personality, especially if any personality is in news, you have to prepare at least some major points about that personality. If we talk about early life of Rabindranath Tagore, इनको popularly Gurudev कहते हैं, right? And he was a multi-talented person, you can say. He was a poet also, he was a writer also, playwright भी करते थे वो, he was a philosopher also, he was a choreographer also. So a lot of things he used to do. He also founded a educational institute जिसका नाम था विश्व भारती, and he was a painter also. Okay, so विश्व भारती का institution का विश्व भारती he founded, right? Apart from that, if we talk about the poetry he wrote, about his poems, so 16 की जब age थी तभी उन्होंने अपनी पहली the first poem he published about himself, which is with the pen name of Manu Sima. Now let us see some of the contributions, but before that there is a very important quotation given by Rabindranath Tagore, that is, everything comes to us that belongs to us if we create the capacity to receive it. Let us now see some of the contributions of Rabindranath Tagore, jahan par, since I told you that he was a writer also, he wrote many famous songs. The first one is Banglar Mati Banglar Jol, which is soil of Bengal and soil of water of Bengal. We all know, we all have read in our history textbooks that he played a very important role in the बंगाल पार्टीशन ऑफ 1905, ठीक है. नाइटहुड भी इन्होंने अपना रिनाउंस करा था ड्यूरिंग जलियांवाला बाग मैसेकर, राइट. सो अमार सोनार मंगला ही रोट, right, which is presently the national anthem of Bangladesh. Apart from that, I've told you Amritsar massacre और जलियांवाला बाग मैसेकर के टाइम पे he renounced his knighthood, right, in 1950 during जलियांवाला बाग मैसेकर, ठीक है, 1913 के बाद की जो हम बात कर रहे हैं, right. So that was about today's lecture. We will come up with next week's current affairs. Till then, stay tuned. Thank you so much.